Hi, Scott Fuller here, founder of leavingthebayarea.com, and we come to you today with another edition of our Market Insider series, where every week, every session, we take you to a different location across the United States where we are seeing Bay Area and California residents are moving to. And if this is the first time you've joined us on one of these webinars, we're going to give you a lot of great information. We're going to talk about cost of living. We're going to talk about education. We're going to talk about industry, employment, traffic, everything that you need to know to make an informed decision if you're thinking of making a move. Today, I'm super excited. I've got Terry McDonald with me with eXp Realty. He's a broker in the Charlotte area. And Terry, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Scott. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. I'm glad you were able to make it here. So we've seen, Terry, a lot of people move into the Charlotte market. We've seen a pretty big tech influence, a lot of people moving for tech and then some for retirement. I know that we're going to go into that a little bit deeper, but just from you've got a large real estate team. Tell me a little bit about, kind of your background in Charlotte, and maybe just give us a really, really brief overview of Charlotte, and then we can kind of get into a lot of our content sections.
Well, thanks for that question, because a lot of people get their impressions of the South on TV, and Charlotte's really none of those things. It's a large modern city in the South, and I moved here. I've been here over 20 years, and most everybody are imports from around the country, East Coast, West Coast, and around the world as well. We have a large international presence here. People don't really realize. So there's a lot of sort of preconceptions, but I came here with 4 children, my wife and a dog 20 years ago, and the city has been very good to our family. The kids went to private schools and public schools. They've all graduated. They've all moved on to bigger and better things. But we found the city well on its way, and it's a kind of a pro-business city and a pro-business state, the easiest way to describe it. Lots of old trees and old neighborhoods in close to town, and then we've got pretty much everything. So a minute about me: I grew up in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C., went to New York City and lived in Hoboken, and went uptown for 3 years, and then we came down here. So we know something about urban living, something about suburban living, and now we raised the family out in the suburbs, and we moved in close to town because there's just a lot of great things happening in downtown Charlotte, or which we call uptown. And so that's the thumbnail sketch. We'll talk a little bit more as we go through these neighborhoods, but I've lived in several areas. I'm in real estate, so we moved a little more than some, and it's been a good ride. And
now you're kind of enjoying your time. It sounds like you guys are empty nesters, so you look very relaxed, Terry. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I appreciate that, and we live that way. We try and live that way all the time. We leave all the what should I call it? I leave a lot to the younger folks who really want to push it and get out there. We when I say that, I still do quite a lot of business, but on the other hand, there's a real estate. There's a place and a time and everything. So it's a
absolutely
place to be in real estate.
Well, that's great, Terry, and I know that you guys do a lot of business in the Charlotte area, very well known, and that's what we'd like to kind of get into. Maybe that's a good starting point for us. Is a lot of people who are moving from the San Francisco area or California, right? Anywhere. You guys obviously have a lot of people from the Northeast that are coming into Charlotte. The first question is, well, how far will my money go? And you're going to have some people who are coming out of California, maybe retired, and so they're on maybe a fixed income and kind of a budget, but they do have some money that they built up in their home that they can spend. And then of course you're going to have some people who have quite a bit of money to play with, to look at maybe some more expensive and extravagant homes in Charlotte. But I know that you're going to share maybe some information. Tell us about some growing areas, some areas that are more popular in the Charlotte area, and give us kind of an idea of what you can get for what price.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I'm going to go ahead and share our screen with you, though, so that I can walk you through some of these different areas. And you're quite right. It's we've got a fairly large geographic area. Charlotte's now the 16th largest city in the country, but our market area spreads quite a bit, quite far, from Lake Norman in the north down to Waxhaw in the south. And we're going to look at 4 different areas today. Scott, there are a lot more than 4, to be honest with you, but these are 4 popular areas. 2 of them are in town, these 2, Dilworth and Plaza Midwood. And then there's 2 suburban locations. One is down here further in the south is Valentine, and then up north in the Lake Norman area, which is in Huntersville, Cornelius, and Davidson. But let's go ahead and start. I think we'll start with Dilworth. Dilworth is my neighbor, Dilworth Sedgefield. We share the same schools. And really what we have is neighborhoods that like the craftsman style here. Dilworth's got a large collection of craftsman homes. And most of these homes have been either taken down entirely or thoroughly remodeled. This one got a price of $1.495 million. It's a more expensive one. Again, it's in town. But we have 4,700 square feet total, 1,816 on the first, 1,856 on the second, and it's a 5-bedroom, 5.5 bath home, and it's a relatively new home built in 2014. So we pop this out. We can look at a few pictures and give you an idea. I was a builder for more than 20 years, and I think anybody who's been in building will appreciate this town and the builders here, the very competitive building market, and the interior finishes, the exterior finishes are all very solid.
That's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. And so dining rooms are not quite as in fashion as they were in years gone by. So we're seeing a couple of different rooms here, but there's a great room and this kind of coffered ceiling. And this is, I'm sure, their kitchen off to the right. These are very popular here, as are porches and outdoor living areas. But you see here how the kitchen extends into the living room. And then there's also a deck out here. And that deck oftentimes will have a roof cover. It can get a little bit hot at the southern, if you've got a southern exposure here. So this is sort of a typical kitchen in Dilworth. Lovely
Those details are amazing, Terry, what they've done to that kitchen. That's awesome.
I think so too. And I love the top level of cabinets here, lighted, 42-inch everywhere else. Of course, the wall ovens, and these are all premium appliances. They do a nice job here. This one's by Ram Construction. We do a lot of work with these guys. So Dilworth got its start. It was the very first suburb outside of Charlotte. You could actually walk to Charlotte, and then they got a trolley. They've since brought the trolley back, but I live in the next neighborhood, Sedgefield, and I like to tell people I go to the Hornets games downtown, and I've made it in as little as 11 minutes from my front door to my seat there. So
wow. Okay. So and that's downtown.
Correct.
And this would be a similar commute.
Yeah, maybe a couple minutes quicker.
Yeah. We're talking, very, very close.
Yep.
This price point on this property, Terry, how long would this type of a home at this price typically stay on the market?
So, of course, everything depends on price. This one's been on the market 0 days. So this is its first day on the market. This is a well-respected builder, very nice finishes. If they priced it right, and I haven't really studied that yet, but if they priced it right, it could be gone over the weekend. They've got an open house here, and that's their hope anyway. It could also hang around for a little bit. We're in August, and it's vacation time.
Slows down a little bit, right?
Yeah, it does slow down a little bit. And I don't want to give anybody the impression that's all you can buy here. There are a lot of nice homes in Dilworth, probably starting in the 700s, smaller homes, 700s, 800s. But if you need the bigger home, you need the 4,500 square feet, and you're going to be upwards in the north of 1.2.
Sure. And this is probably one of the higher end, general properties we'd see. So we're coming out with a bang, showing the awesome property, but obviously we'll look in some options that are going to be much less than that as well.
Absolutely. And there's no doubt about it. The next neighborhood we're going to go to is another in-town neighborhood, is Midwood, Plaza Midwood. And over here, you will see even more of the bungalow style. You'll also see craftsman style homes here. This is another tall trees, wide boulevards. This is also right off a road called Central Avenue. And Charlotte's not big enough to have a Chinatown, but Central Avenue is really where we have a lot of Asian influence, a lot of international feel for it. And a big part of that is this Plaza Midwood. It's a lovely, lovely neighborhood. We work in this neighborhood an awful lot. The prices are more friendly. This one's 2,760 square feet, and it's priced at $599. And it's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath home. So plenty large for families. Big front porches are the norm here. Many of these houses were built before air conditioning, Scott, and we live in the South. So they would put these big porches on to protect the windows to keep the sun out. And then, you never know, they at night have people in the old days used to sleep in them. Today, they're all air conditioning. Every once in a while I do get a call, does this house have air conditioning? I say, trust me, every house down here has air conditioning.
If it doesn't, it's going too soon, right?
Right. So, when people live in Michigan, they ask about the heat. Down here, they ask about the air conditioning. But it's another lovely kitchen, this sort of simple style. This is a simple craftsman. There's some elements of shaker in here too. These nice wide plank hardwood floors. Nice features, good features. And again, an open floor plan concept is the norm in the newer homes here and the recently renovated homes.
So Terry, for this property in Midwood, about how far is this to the downtown area?
It's in that same 10 to 12 minute range. That's the neat thing. This is the second inner loop circle that I showed you. Those two that were close to town. Dilworth's one. This Midwood is the second. We're going to head a little further out into the suburbs and a little further out in the suburbs where you might find, if there's a challenge here in Midwood, it might be the schools. Dilworth's got excellent schools at a little higher price point. These schools are so here we see more young professionals perhaps and more people starting families than little older families. But Charlotte's got a lot of different types of school situations. So there's always a plan for schools.
Yeah, and Terry, it's interesting you say that because, every time we're having this conversation in a different city, you are going to have some areas that have a little bit better schools than others. And that's obviously a conversation. If you have a family that's relocating, schools are important, then the conversation becomes, let's look at, identify some communities that maybe has the better schools and maybe that price point's higher. Or we look at the option of, still nice communities, maybe not the best schools, but the option to do private school or something like that. So I'm sure that's a conversation that you guys have with a lot of people to determine where that best fit might be for somebody who has, a family with kids in school.
Absolutely. And then the school system also has a large system of magnets and charters. So it's really there's a layered look at schools here, and they go and you're exactly right. There are certain areas that are better than others, and then there's privates, and then there's charters and magnets, but that's a separate conversation.
Sure.
We're going to move out to the suburbs a little bit with this next one. This is a South Charlotte community. This home is located in Waxhaw, but when I think of South Charlotte, I think South Charlotte starts in Ballantyne, Scott. Ballantyne is another area that a lot of folks around the country know, relatively new, about 20 years old. It is a live-work community. You've got you used to have corporate headquarters out in Ballantyne, and most of them have moved into town now, but it's a big insurance and finance place. The banks all have secondary operations in Ballantyne. And then Ballantyne just edges into several communities. It edges into Waxhaw. And so you have a number of people who work in Ballantyne, live in Waxhaw. Some work and live both in Ballantyne. And we'll talk about retirement communities. And the most successful retirement community in the city is about probably 5 miles from here and about 10 miles from Ballantyne. So they're all working in here together. That's South Charlotte is a very popular area in general because of the higher quality schools, and you get a little more for your money out here compared to in town. So this one is 475.9, under 500.
That blows my mind, Terry. I'm looking at the stats on this property. I'm looking at the pictures. That's unbelievable. I'm trying to make a comparison on what that would cost here, but I just can't. I mean, it's
No, it's that way. It's that way a lot. So I walked into a house like this with a guy from Long Island too one time, and he just paid a $24,000 tax bill. And he asked me, Terry, in his Italian accent, how much are the taxes? And I said, I think they're probably about $6,000. We'll have to ask the new home rep. Well, he looked at me like I was lying to him. Like, there's no way you'll get this for $6,000 in taxes. And then he walks in, and a minute after he's there, he asks her what the taxes are, and she says, they're estimated at $6,300 a year. And he just shook his head for the next 2 minutes.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a shock in a good way. So show us some pictures on this one. I think we've got about 4,000 square feet.
Yep, just under 4,000, and lovely. It's got brick, and that is hardy plank that's going with it. We use a lot of that here. I'm not sure how popular that is out west, but they use it in place of traditional sidings, wood sidings, and cedar shakes, etc. And it's impervious to the weather, virtually impervious. It's a great exterior. Here you see that the Craftsman style here is very popular. So on this finish, we're seeing the simplicity around the doors. Here, the wainscoting. These are probably 5-inch white oak, if I were guessing from here. But this is a sort of a center hall colonial. If you get that from here, here's your dining on here, a center hall here. That's a modern take on it. And then we come through down to a wide open kitchen, and I'm sure this kitchen will lend itself out to a great room. There's a formal dining here off the side. And yeah, I think this picture was taken from the kitchen. Again, the coffered ceilings, lovely windows. These are all very well insulated windows. These are all, I won't say everyone is, but most of them are, certified green homes. The builders here are looking to compete on a lot of different levels, and one of them is energy, the cost of energy. That's a laundry room. There's no washer and dryer, so you got to tell them. So this is a staged home here. So we go through it. Just a lovely home. This is a
yeah, beautiful.
What we get in land? Okay, we got 0.36, about 1/3 of an acre, and it's level and wooded.
Yeah,
not too bad. This is a little more in the country. Waxhaw is maybe one of those far out suburbs. We occasionally go further than that, but we go to Waxhaw all the time.
And how long did you say that takes to get from Waxhaw to the downtown area?
I didn't, but that's a longer commute, at least a longer commute for us, which would be 45 minutes to an hour. That's around here, that's a long commute,
Yeah.
But that's if they're going to uptown. There's a lot of different employment areas here. Valentine's a big employment area, and that's probably 15 to 20 minutes.
Well, and I imagine a lot of the people that you're selling these houses to, 45 minutes is not a shocker. And with what you're getting here, 1/3 of an acre, 4,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms. I mean, that's a small price to pay commuting 45 minutes to have these, this type of living.
Well, and exactly right. And so there are trade-offs, and everybody Charlotte's about a city of choices, really, and there are a lot of good choices, and different communities with different things. And some people, that's nothing. I've got people who come from Long Island and say we commute 2 hours every day. An hour, that's nothing. Other people really want to be in closer. That's great too. We've got good choices there. It's there are choices, and I've worked in relocation for the entire 15 years here, so I'm much more familiar with the whole city than your typical agent would be. Over here, all right, we've gone north now to Cornelius. I'm going to just pop this up in a map real quick.
Sure.
And the reason I am is because this is the first time we've left actually the city of Charlotte. And look at that. We're looking at homes surrounded by Lake Norman. Not a bad thing. And this is right off of 77. Right. So a lot of people work in North Charlotte, this Huntersville area, this Huntersville to Cornelius, and they love it here. And the hardcore water people, somebody say, hey, we want to live in waterfront. We've heard and seen how wonderful Lake Norman is. And it is. You can live here on the peninsula and then head down here uptown. It's only 23 miles at its closest, 25 miles from here. That house to here is 20 or 25 miles. This is one of the heavier traveled highways in the city. We're just opening up new lanes there, some new toll lanes, and everybody's pretty, has mixed feelings about them because they think they're going to be too expensive, but the long and short of it is they'll get people here quicker.
Yeah.
I think once people get used to it, they're going to be happier. Let's go back, and we'll take a look at some houses up here as well. I picked this one just because of the waterfront view. There are prettier homes. This one's 4,500 square feet, 2,700 on the main level, and this is a home with a ranch. So it's on the main and then 1,800 down in the basement. It's priced at 1,299. A big part of that is this water view and the dock and the pier. You see the covered boat houses out here. It looks like they've got a place for a couple of boats, some jet skis. I think that's what those are, is jet ski covers. So these are people who are into water play on the weekends and evenings. There's a look at their cove. I'm on this lake almost weekly in the summer. And oh yeah, and it's 30 minutes from my front door. So 30 minutes to my boat anyway. So yeah, we go pretty regularly. And water sports are good. People fish in the lake, but mostly they're tubing, they're skiing, they're sailing too. Particularly in the spring and the summer, or spring and fall, we get good breezes. There's some sailing clubs out there as well. And there's a look at it from the front. Not as exciting from the front, but I could make that one look real pretty here real fast if you.
Well, yeah, you could change that up. And I mean, well, really, it's all about the surroundings, right? This has everything that you would need.
Yep, exactly right. And oversized 2-car garage, good description. It's been on the market 14 days. Anyway, that's what I'm talking about when there's choices. Some of the ones we didn't look at, we have a large collection of country clubs here. So some people want to live in country clubs, great. We've got good ones in town, places like Myers Park Country Club or Quail Hollow. If you've got a serious golfer, Quail Hollow is the place to be because the PGA comes here pretty regularly.
I've heard of it, yeah.
And the Quail Hollow tournament, is a regular feature there. And it's nice to be able to walk to it instead of having to get in your car and go. It is certainly nice. But we've got country club living. And then we've also got equestrian living around the edges. If people want horse farms and that type of thing, we have that as well. And then, like I said, pretty much everything in between. And then we've got high-rise condos in town. We've got a couple of tall buildings and lots of both ends of the spectrum there. We got a lot of young buyers, but then a lot of people who are my age who say, hey, I'm just ready for somebody else to take care of everything. And I just want easy living and I can turn my key and go.
Well, Terry, let's get into that a little bit. So obviously you've provided some really good examples, a range of, prices for people to consider. But then we also have a lot of people that are looking for active adult, 55 plus communities. Some of those places are awesome. I mean, they offer a lot of really, really good, amenities. Give us, maybe one or two, quick examples of, what you would find if somebody is interested in that active adult living lifestyle.
So we have probably a dozen or 15 of those in the area. The two that are the best known is this Trilogy at Lake Norman, and then there's a Del Webb community in the south called Sun City, Carolina Lakes. And I'm not sure what's slowing us down here, but this is at Lake Norman. And at Trilogy, both of these are all-inclusive kind of communities. They take care of all the lawn care. They take care of all the exterior maintenance. They're what we call down in the South golf cart communities. Now, interestingly enough, Trilogy doesn't even have a golf course. They've got one nearby that their people are members to, but Sun City is built around a golf course. But the golf carts extend the people's mobility. And down in Sun City, there's even a grocery store that the front row of parking, usually, that row where you usually drive in for pickup, that's all golf cart parking.
Yeah. I mean, what a way to pick up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or just to walk in for a minute and take a look. When we say the Trilogy is right about here, it's just on the southeastern corner of Lake Norman. It's not on the lake, but it's right next to it. It's that 57 includes some of those homes. They have ranch homes, probably. I mean, they start in the high 200s. It's amazing, Scott, from like the 290s, and then the most expensive are in the mid 5s, and they're all.
So you're getting actually detached single-family homes for starting at the mid to high 200s.
Exactly. high 200s, and then the nicer ones go from there. You know, they'll go up to, you know, 300, 350, but the 350 buys a lot of home at Trilogy, 400 as well.
Okay.
Same's true down south at Sun City, Carolina Lake. So many people are familiar with the brand and the name Del Webb. They, particularly for our parents, their generation, they were the first to do these all-inclusive retirement places. This little area here called Indian Land here has the most successful Del Webb community ever, and it's Sun City, Carolina Lakes, and it's 10 miles south of Ballantyne. You can get to the Charlotte airport in 45 minutes, and it's over 55. They've got a great golf course there. The people who play it like it a lot, and they're the first people who came with the all-included a clubhouse that is like a country club. And with activities going essentially 20 hours a day from as early as you want.
You can keep really busy and make a lot of really good friends for people. And again, not everybody who's over 55 is looking for this, but for the people that are, those amenities and what you get for the price, it's really good.
Exactly right. And if anything, Sun City is a price point below Trilogy. Instead of 300 to 500, they're more 250 to 450. They have a few that get up to 500. And the amenities are pretty much a la carte. So everybody gets the clubhouse, but if you want golf, that's an extra fee and stuff like that. It all works out, but both are extremely popular, and we're excited to have two of them, one in the north and one in the south. And usually the people wind up wherever their grandkids are closest to. That's the most common reason.
That's what we see, right? You follow your grandkids wherever they go to, and that's what a lot of our retirees, California, are doing as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you're in the south, you go to Sun City, and in the north, you go to Trilogy, and you can love either one.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. I think we've got everything that you're going to show us on the screen share here.
All right.
Tell us a little bit about, kind of keeping along with the 55 plus theme here. We have a lot of people that one of their biggest concerns, I shouldn't say concern, but the biggest points that they're going to research is how's healthcare? Proximity to healthcare services. What are your thoughts on that and your feedback for people who, say healthcare is very important to us in our move, and that's going to be a high priority on our list where we decide to go to?
Well, I love people where that's a priority. If that's a priority, then, and they just do their research on healthcare, Charlotte will pop up very near the top of the list. We've got two excellent medical systems here, Novant, formerly called Presbyterian, and now Atrium, formerly Carolinas Medical. They've been in competition for years. They track some of the top doctors in the country. We have a cardiac unit at Carolinas Medical that does transplants, one of like a half a dozen in the country. Wow. We have a cardiac intensive care with 15 beds in it, and I visited there, unfortunately, about a year ago. But the bottom line is it's here. It's about 7 or 8 minutes from my house. They have satellite hospitals out on the perimeters, and I warn our young people whenever we go past them that a lot of babies are born there. And so if you're not interested in more children, just kind of, work your way away from those guys. But people move here for the healthcare, and they do. I've had many people move here for the healthcare. I had people who call me and said, so what made you think of Charlotte? I had one exactly 10 years ago. You have a pediatric intensive care unit. I said, okay, that's a new one on me, but I'm happy to hear it. We also have the Levine Cancer Center, and we have a magnificent children's hospital. This children's hospital, you have to see it at night. The windows light up in a rainbow of colors. And the reason they're a rainbow is each child can choose the colors of the room at night. And is
that right? Wow.
It is. So they're in their programming, their light choices, and from the outside, it's this mosaic that's just stunning. So I'm very excited to talk about healthcare. Ballantyne has the largest selection of doctors and physicians without a hospital. They don't have a formal hospital. There's one about 2 miles away in Mercy, but they have every type of physician, and so it's not an accident that Sun City's 10 miles away. It's not. The people like that, and that's the way to the airport too. So
Yeah.
so anyway, so yeah, healthcare is very strong here. One last thing on that, I had a physician. I moved down here, and so I asked his wife, and they're in Valentine, and she said, I said, well, what's different? And he said, well, he enjoys medicine again. I said, really? She said, yeah. He sees 50% less patients, 50% less patients, doesn't work weekends, and isn't stressed all the time. I said, that's good news. And she lived in Valentine. I said, what's the other big surprise? And she said, how easy everything was, how the kids got integrated in schools, et cetera. She said, don't tell him.
Yeah.
He wanted to move 10 years ago. Don't tell him I said this, but it was a breeze. And I said, very good.
Well, that's the dream relocation scenario, right? That's what everybody wants.
Exactly. Better than we thought,
Yeah.
and easier than we thought. So yeah, it's like that. And yeah, and liking medicine again, I think is a good thing for a physician.
Well, sure. I mean, obviously, the less stress that they are, probably the better care that they're going to be provided. So
I think so.
That's great, Terry. Thanks for talking about that a little bit more. Let's get into industry and employment. So obviously, Charlotte has a very, very strong economy. There's a lot of growth in industry. A lot of people that I'm sure that are moving there, especially with the booming tech sector there. Talk to us a little bit about
finance, of course, is the main driver here.
Well, finance certainly,
and then finance tech. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Finance first, tech second, tech growing. But tell us about kind of the different industries and where you're seeing the growth in employment, and maybe some of the new or up and coming major players in industry in Charlotte.
Okay, that's a big question. So we're going to try and keep it
That's
down.
loaded. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff right there.
Yeah, unpack it a little and keep it to a few minutes. Well, first off, you got to remember we have 5 corporate Fortune 500 companies who are headquartered here. It's sizable. This Bank of America, yes, but so is Lowe's, and so is the rest of them are going to come to me. Sonic and a handful of others are all Fortune 500 companies here. And then there's 2 new ones moving. We just had Honeywell, who's probably number 6. They just relocated in the last 12 months. And then we have a new bank merger. SunTrust merged with BB&T. These aren't names probably that familiar to you. They're mostly East Coast and middle of the country, but they'll be the 6th largest bank in the country. And they decided to headquarter here in Charlotte. So finance is where the city's history begins. We have a mint museum. We have a Federal Reserve branch here. And we even had gold before the 49er gold rush. Yes, the first gold rush.
Is that right? Okay.
Absolutely, like in 1848 or something along those lines. So we have a background in that, and that's where the money was made here. It was printed here, and we developed into a banking town. First, it was Nations Bank that became Bank of America. We stole the Bank of America. Part of that deal to bring them to Charlotte was we'd keep the Bank of America name, but they moved the headquarters here. And then we had another bank that was a competitor for years called Wachovia. That went out in the recession, but becomes Wells Fargo. And then now we have this. We have big presentation here. Our representation of banks, but not just banks, insurance companies. Every major insurance company in the country is here, from the Hartford to MetLife to the just you name it, Liberty Mutual. They all have places. And then those guys drew in tech workers. And tech is in the growth mode in the last decade. You were right on that, because the banking industry is concentrated in New York, here in San Francisco. And then and by the way, that's the hat trick, is you take your banking executive pay from San Francisco or New York, and then you get transferred here. That's the crushing win. That's
the goal, right? That's okay. This is where the end result's going to be.
Exactly, because all of a sudden you've gotten this giant promotion, and your cost of living has gone down to the floor. Between our housing and insurance, our insurance costs are very low. So banking, financial tech, those are 2 leading industries. Healthcare is the actual largest employer. So healthcare is a big industry here. It's only growing as our baby boomers, people like me, grow a little older, and this population's a big cohort. So there's a large number of them here. And so those are the big 3, but then there's also transportation. And you've probably been told that the United States doesn't manufacture anything, but in truth, there's a lot of what we call precision manufacturing, and Charlotte's the hub for precision manufacturing. These are the manufacturing jobs that can't be shipped overseas. Lots of times they try.
Give me an example of precision manufacturing. What would that be?
You've heard of the German company Siemens? Yes, sure. Siemens is an energy company. Well, we have the North American headquarters for Siemens here, and they manufacture giant turbines and turbines. Every power plant in the world, and their focus here is North America, South America, our continents here, is they're providing, Siemens and Toshiba both are providing the turbines for every power plant in the country. Not only that, we have a large representation in jet planes and aircraft. So there's a lot of these high-end, highly skilled manufacturing plants. And that's the difference, the skills that it takes to manufacture these. That's why they call it precision manufacturing. And it's why we were also a little more affected by the recession the last time in 2007 and 8, because there were a number of factory workers, and it's easy to lay off a shift. But we bounced back from that quickly, and the other recessions we don't even feel unless it's a financial one. So I think we're insulated from the business cycle, and I'm particularly cognizant of that because we were insulated in the Washington, D.C. area. The economy is always good up there. That means home prices go up, and it's a can-do attitude. It's an optimistic place. But long and short of it, those are your 3 or 4 main industries. The service industries, of course, are all big. Tourism's big. We have, but there's quite a lot here as well. They're not massive employers, but there's just a lot of things for people to do here.
It's a very well diversified industry base.
It is.
And I was actually just reading this morning. So there was a $200 million Amazon distribution center approved, not far from the airport, and that's going to bring in about 1,500 jobs. I'm sure that people are pretty excited about that.
They are. Those are high-wage jobs, and again, in an affordable city like Charlotte, those people will be firmly in the middle class. And then, Lowe's moved their established their tech quarters about 7 or 8 minutes from me, and they're bringing 2,000 tech jobs to South End, which is right here at the end of Dilworth. It's in our neighborhood. So they're bringing 2,000 jobs here. Interestingly enough, you've heard of probably Lending Tree.
Sure.
Lending Tree was in Ballantyne for years. They were founded and they were there since their beginning. They're also moving in town to this area called South End, which is where a lot of our younger millennials are, and they're trying to attract them. And that millennials are located here in town. So that's why they're coming. So it's an exciting time to be in Charlotte.
Let's talk about taxes. That's what everybody loves to talk about, right? Or not. Yep. But the reality is, people coming from California, taxes are going up. We have the highest state income tax rate in the country right now. So for people who are looking at it from a financial,
what is that rate in California?
12.3%. We'll do some comparisons just to kind of make it fun, Terry, right? But for a lot of people, whether they're moving a business or they're moving, a family or individually, their biggest concern is financially. How is the city I'm going to move to going to benefit me, and what's the outcome going to look like from a financial perspective? So let's kind of look at, let's do some comparisons. What's your state income tax rate?
5%.
Okay, so we're a little bit over a 7% difference on our top bracket here. What are you guys paying for property taxes? And I know that can vary, but on average, what's your property tax rate?
So it does vary, and it's based on an assessed value. All right. Now they've done an assessment, so the actual values and assessed values are somewhat similar now, but it's 0.95, and that's per 100. So on $1 million home in the city of Charlotte, your taxes are probably around $9,500 a year.
Got it. Okay.
All right.
And so we're at about, just to do a comparison, we're about starting at 1.25%. There might be additional, taxes in addition to that based off of, growth initiatives, things like that.
Correct. So at the 0.95, that's your cumulative tax rate in the city of Charlotte. There's multiple taxes that add up to that 0.95, but that's our top rate. And then there's different parts of Mecklenburg where it's only 0.7, and some of the cities, Matthews and Huntersville, Cornelius, some of those are a little bit lower than the 0.95. They're 0.85, 0.8, but 0.95 is the worst. South Carolina, which is nearby, which we're also licensed in because our market area encompasses both North and South Carolina. Mm-hmm. When you're down there at Ballantyne, you're just a stone's throw from South Carolina as well. And they're known for even lower taxes than we are. I like to tell people we have low taxes. They have ridiculously low taxes. Interestingly enough, though, since it's one market and one MLS, if you study the market carefully, you'll realize that the home prices down there are about 3 or 4% higher than they are right across the North Carolina line. And it's people adjusting for the lower tax rates.
So it kind of balances out.
It does. It does.
If you're in a small area.
Exactly. Exactly. If you're on a fixed income, et cetera, in a retirement, then South Carolina might be a little more interesting. And that's Sun City, Carolina Lakes. It's 10 miles south of Ballantyne, but it's also in South Carolina. Okay. So it's not an accident. They definitely go together.
That's right.
Low taxes and retirees.
What's your sales tax?
They're discussing raising it, but it's at 7.5% right now, and the discussion's another 0.25%.
We're at 8.25%. That may go up, and obviously that can vary on county out here. So we're quite a bit higher on that. What are you paying for a gallon of gas? Let's say premium gas. What are you paying?
It's pretty cheap right now. Premium is $2.79, $2.89, something like that. 2.25 for regular. Yeah, it's depends. You move around a little bit. You get a little closer to the coast. The prices go up for some reason. Yeah. But and we go to the coast a lot because it's only a couple hours, few hours away. But right in that $2 to $3 a gallon range.
So we've got you beat there, Terry. We're at about $4. I think the last time I filled up for premium it was $4, and that's down. Now, if we looked at it about 2 months ago, we were at about close to 4.5 per gallon.
Makes a difference on those 25-gallon Phillips, doesn't it?
I tell you, it does. So I'd like to say that we're the winner, we win, but yeah, in the end, you guys win. Lower's better. Like your golf score, right?
Yeah, exactly. Lower is better.
Let's go into. I want to get this wrapped up to kind of stay on our time frame here, but I know a lot of people want to understand the climate. So let's talk about the climate: rainfall, snow, humidity, average temperatures. Summer, winter. Give us everything. What do we need to know?
Okay. Well, the best place, of course, is to go online for any kind of temperatures average. But let me just give you my take on it.
Yeah.
I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, which gets hot and humid. We're the same way. We get hot and humid. Low 90s is common. Humidity 60, 70, 80% on the worst days. So there's a couple of months that most of us try and spend as much time in the air conditioning as possible. Let's just face it. But that doesn't mean you don't go out in the morning. It doesn't mean you don't go out on the lake. We go out on the lake every weekend. Doesn't matter what the humidity is. We get out. I get out in my neighborhood and walk the dog, or my wife exercises. We do that every morning, all year round. The winters are mild and short, generally a couple of months, and they're not northern winters. Okay, the way I describe winter here is you need a coat in the morning and in the afternoon. Okay, those days are pretty rare, like 3 weeks to a month. We have tons of days where it's chilly in the morning. Starts out at, in the winter at 30 degrees. But then by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, it's 50, 55, 60. We don't have any major amount of snow, and that means we don't have really snow removal like they do up in the north. I tell people our snow removal policy is to let it melt, and that is the policy. They'll get out.
You don't have to find yourself out there shoveling a driveway. If there's been snowfall overnight, it's going to melt by afternoon.
It will typically melt by afternoon, and the nice thing is because we don't clear roads and stuff, if there's an inch of snow or inch and a half, likely is everything will be closed the next day anyway. so I mean, we tend to just freak out. We tend to just freak out when we see a few flakes. And I don't know if you remember, but in Atlanta, they had a pretty tough snowstorm come up right in the middle of the day, and they sent their kids to school, and they got stuck out on the highway. And it's made all the cities down here like have PTSD about it. They if there's a sign of snow, cancel. Schools cancel.
I tell you, people freak out on that.
Yeah, they do. They do.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
So, and then, like I said, it rarely hangs around for more than a few days because the temperatures get up into the 50s and snow doesn't do real well in the, in the middle 50s. So I say there is no snow. When I moved here, there was like almost no snow. Like there were 3 plows. Today, there's quite a few more. But the bottom line is they hit the interstates and then they hit a big road. And by the time they've done that, the small roads have melted. It's not a big concern. We have long springs and long falls.
Speaking of snow, so the closest, for people who like to ski or enjoy the snow activities, how far are you from, the nearest resort?
The closest places are like 90 minutes away. See, Charlotte sits right in the foothills, not quite, like California right on the mountains, but we're in the foothills, and about 90 minutes up, you'll find your first ones. The better ones are a few hours away up in the foothill, up in the mountains of West Virginia. And, we've skied in all of those things, but I grew up north, and we skied in Vermont and then out west. So we never skied a ton here, but there is skiing here. We're more known for our summer sports and outdoor sports because we've got everything from Nags Head to Hilton Head and the beaches, Charleston.
Yeah, how far is the beach?
The closest one that we go to most often is Charleston, and that's around 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Okay.
And
so that's
when I moved here, I have to tell you, I thought that was the biggest disadvantage, that we were 3 hours away. And then Katrina happened in New Orleans, and I measured the damage circle. The damage circle inside was 3 hours. And all of a sudden, 3 hours looked pretty good. If we're going to live in the South, 3 hours looks pretty good. And what's exciting about that is your insurance rates are reflective of that. We have some of the lowest property insurance rates because we don't have really hurricanes. By the time they get here, they're storms, they're rain. We don't have earthquakes. We don't have a lot of tornadoes. We don't have a lot of those kind of things. But your property rates here in Charlotte are really quite reasonable. And I mean quite reasonable.
Yeah. Quite a bit less than what you would find if you were farther south.
Correct, or close to the coast. If you get close to the coast, you're paying for,
So you guys, like you said, then you don't get impacted. Well, I shouldn't say you don't have a direct hit from hurricanes, but you do get impacted maybe by the tropical storm or something like that. So you're going to get quite a bit of rain, but as far as like property damage,
if we get it, it's from down trees that hit power lines.
Significant.
Yeah, it's not like the coastal areas. A lot of people don't understand that North Carolina is a pretty wide state. We're not north to south, we're not too far, but we're pretty wide. And like for me to get from here to Nags Head is that on the Outer Banks there, it's almost 7-hour drive. I can get to closer beaches like Charleston in 3 hours and 10 minutes, but straight out there to the coast of the Carolinas, the furthest point, it's a good ways out. So we're far enough inland that we really don't get the hurricane issues that the coastal areas do, or Florida. We've gotten a lot of storm refugees from Florida, especially back in the middle 2000s.
Oh, I'm sure.
There were tons of hurricanes in there in like 6, 7, and 8, and we got a crop of new people every year just saying, I'm tired of, not knowing what's going to happen every year.
Well, it's tough, right? You're on pins and needles for 2-3 months. What could potentially happen? So
exactly. We've gotten a few from California that way too, between earthquakes and fires. People fearful of those, just saying we don't want, and the lack of water. Thankfully, we've got plenty of water.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, this is great. Terry, thank you so much. I think we've covered pretty much everything that I had. Was there anything that you wanted to throw out there that maybe we didn't go over?
No, except just if you're interested in coming this way, my last name's easy to remember. It's McDonald, and it's like your fast food place. And if you Google me, you'll find me in a bit. And we'll be here and happy to help you whenever you come. And it's one of those places. Come for a visit, come for a weekend, and take a look around. And see if it's as good as I've told you or your friends have told you, and let it go at that. The city sells most people most of the time.
And we would love to do that. We'll offer to our clients the ability to come out, and if they want to take a look around, meet with you guys for an afternoon or a day and have you kind of show them around a little bit. So we'll keep that option open. And for anybody who wants to, do that, get that scheduled, you can email us directly at info@leavingthebayarea.com. we'd love to get you, scheduled and set up with your team out there, Terry, because I know you guys do a fantastic job. And I know that you're working with a lot of people, in a relocation, transition, which, is, very specific, right? It's, there's a really good way to do it, and you guys clearly have that set up.
Absolutely. And we look forward to working with people there, and we've had people from San Francisco land in Dilworth and other parts of the city on a fairly regular basis. Yeah.
Awesome. Terry, you've been a wealth of information. This has been fantastic. Appreciate you spending the time with me today, and you and I will be in touch soon.
All right. Thanks, Scott, and I look forward to it.
Okay. Take care. All right. Bye, everybody.